being a young kid and going to shoot a gun and going to shoot an animal and harvest it, and not even really getting to the weird aspect of harvesting, but more so of going to kill. Like, going to kill a animal was, like, for me, I know it sounds kind of weird, but it was pretty awesome. You're going out and hunting an animal, and then you're getting to kill it. And there's so many kids out there that don't get that opportunity.
Newly married life. Well, you said you're just newly married? How long?
About 2 years, a little bit over 2 years.
Oh, yeah, you're a veteran in the game already. Has it been adjustment? Well, the $1 million question, if you don't mind me asking, did you guys live together before you were married?
No.
Wow. That still happens? I much respect, man. Much respect. Wait, you and
No.
Y'all didn't live together before y'all were married?
Nope.
Okay, yeah, that's my culture. I respect that. Like, that is awesome. You know how they say that, was it an adjustment?
Ooh, no, it was not an adjustment for her and I.
Wow, that's amazing. Was it an adjustment for you and Hannah?
No.
No?
I don't think so. I don't know. It wasn't that big of a deal. I mean, we were dating for a couple of years, and we spent like 24/7 around each other anyway.
Right,
so.
but stays nice. But y'all,
I didn't meet my wife at a gym while I was training her, so it was very easy for me to.
I don't know. That was. I mean, it's not like I'm gonna be like, oh, I'm gonna train you. Come back to my house and stay the night. Let me see how it is to live with you beforehand.
That sounds like
Dummy.
it sounds really realistic.
No, that's nothing realistic. But
That's a real random example to bring up. Who meets their
yeah.
wife at a gym? What are you talking
Well,
about?
I met my wife at the gym, and I was training
you.
her, which good because you want to have something in common with your wife. But the tendency not to live with them or live with them is a different thing. Michael, you're so dumb. If you and Hannah were probably working in the same place, you know darn well you would be hooking up with her anyway. So you better say yes, because I hope she watches
We
the
would
next
never
episode.
work together.
Okay, I hope she watches that again to see that you would never want to work with her.
But y'all are business together?
Yeah, that's what I'm talking about.
I'm
There we go. Dude, man, we need him
Oh.
on the automatic
Oh.
show. Hey, now you got to commit every Monday to be here. If anybody that I can have back up to talk mess to Michael, you're here every single Monday. This is
Almost
this
every
side,
day.
this side. Yeah. Now we're going to really dive into the real truth.
Well, welcome to the APECS Podcast. Michael, you want to give us an intro?
Sure. We have Tristan here with us today. He's a coworker of mine. He's a good friend of mine, and we welcome him to the show. Thank you for being here, Tristan. This is a time we get to hang out every week and get to talk to each other about what's going on in our lives, what's going on in the world, and we appreciate you joining us tonight.
Happy to be here. Just for the record, I'm only here so I don't get fired. So
Oh, yeah. Marshawn Lynch. No, you'll be. Yeah, knowing Michael, you probably would. Now that you threw that one jab at him, yeah, for sure.
No, not a chance.
Anyhow, so who recruited who? How did you get deal with Mako?
ooh, there's a lot of history there. So I did 6 years in residential construction, and I did 5 years at a partnership, and then I did 1 year corporate. And at my 1 year corporate, it was great experience, but I did not enjoy it, to be honest. And I was going to leave the construction industry altogether and go into following what my grandpa did, and he was a pilot. He flew for American Airlines for 33 years, and
cool.
completely changed his life and his family's life, going up poor in Franklin, Texas, to living in Fairfield, Connecticut. So he was based out of LaGuardia, but he passed away a couple years ago, and he was a good mentor of mine. And after being burnt out in construction, I was really wanting to make that shift. And at the time, I had, a wife and a kid. And really, to become a pilot, you've got to be fairly young and not really in a. You could be married, but adding a kid to it makes it a lot harder. So around that time when I was getting everything ready, I was prepared. January 1st, I was going to leave my company and start going to school full time, and had a lunch meeting with my best friend, Justin, and told him how unhappy I was and that I was going to leave and go pursue to be a pilot. And his dad owns Mako,
Oh, Justin.
Yeah.
Did you go to A&M with Justin?
Yes, yeah.
Oh, I like
yeah.
Justin. Cool dude.
Yeah,
okay.
yeah. So,
C-son.
Yep.
Yeah, okay.
So-
Connecting the dots.
Yeah.
Connecting the
Yeah.
dots.
So I guess C had a conversation with Justin, like, hey, how's the lunch with Tristan? He's like, not good. He's, leaving the construction industry. And next thing you know, I got a phone call saying, hey, do you want to be a
That's
superintendent?
awesome.
And my history or my experience in construction was purchasing. So I was in the office, upper management role, but I had never really learned, at the ground level, being a superintendent and building things ground up. And I really wanted that opportunity. So when it came my way, I was like, not only am I going to learn construction, it's going to be commercial construction. And I always say, based on my experience now, residential is like the minor leagues, whereas, commercial is the majors. So.
Oh, well, that's cool. I've had a couple opportunities to meet Justin. He worked out at the gym when I was down the street, so that's a good connection. And they always say that you're, the old saying, you're like the 5 most people you're around, and you keep positive connections around you. You get positive results for that. But that's cool, and they're a good family. I mean, I always joke about C not wanting to work out, but that's no reflection of him as a man. I mean, he's still a good dude. He just does not want to work out.
Yeah, he's a great person.
Yeah, he just does not want to work out. So.
So
Sorry, C, but if you want to come back.
So what first pushed you into construction in the first place? Because I feel like, maybe not your generation, you're old, but our generation.
That's what I'm talking about. See this?
We heard a lot growing up. Just go to college, blindly, and so a lot of people ended up just going to college, getting some obscure degree,
you are actually right.
because they had to find something that sort of interested them, only to find out that there's really no real world application for what they did, right? And so sounds like fairly young you got into something pretty practical like construction. So what originally pushed you into that?
Yeah, so I came from a family of plumbers, not blood related, but growing up, I had a stepdad, and he worked for a plumbing company. The plumbing company is called Chaparral Plumbing. They do a majority of new home residential in Houston. So they're one of the older plumbers that's been around. If you're in that, I guess, world, you know who Chaparral is. And so I got brought in under Randy Nettles' wing, which is the CEO of Chaparral, at a young age, and I'd go spend my weekends with him. And we would go up to their ranch and their lake house. So depending on the time of the year, we were either working at their ranch in Marquay, which is halfway between Houston and Dallas, and then in the spring around this time, we'd go to their lake house off of Sam Rayburn, and we'd do a bunch of crappie fishing. Well, throughout the years, I put in a lot of time. I learned to work under the guy who started Chaparral, which his name is Charlie Jones. He's kind of a legend in that realm, one of the old guys who started up a company at a young age with really nothing and made something of himself. So I learned to work by watching Charlie, because he wasn't teaching anybody. He was just like, either you get up and start working and learn by just watching and repeat, rinse and repeat, because he's not going to sit there and teach you anything. So anyways, I from like the age of 12 to 20, I forgot when I started working for a home builder, but I had learned from Charlie. And then there was an opportunity for me. I left a storage container company where we would transport these containers back and forth from Walmarts. And there I learned a bunch of welding and framing and electrical and stuff like that. And I just wasn't happy there. I was working my way through college. That's the only reason I was there. And I got the opportunity to work for a home builder. How that happened was a purchasing manager came to the ranch that I would work at, and I would help guide for hunts and stuff like that. And this purchasing manager came up, he shot an animal, and I was cleaning his deer for him. And I didn't speak to him much, but after that weekend, back up, when he pulled up, he had a F-350, smoking hot wife, and and he was just good looking, no Diddy, you know what I'm saying? But he just had it going on, and I was like, man, I want that. And being 20 years old, just looking up to that was pretty cool. Well, the next weekend I didn't go up. I had something to do with school, and he was looking for somebody to help him in his office. They were outgrowing, they were growing their company, and he just had too much on his plate. So he spoke with Randy, and Randy said, I got just the guy, and it was the guy that you met the weekend before. So I sent him my resume real quickly, and in January of 2018, I started working in as a purchasing manager's assistant, like low on the totem pole, working on the edge of his desk, just punching in data and learning the system. And from there, I completed my college degree, which was a double major in marketing and finance, and I got a full-time offer by that company. And that company was a great company to work for. It was a smaller company, partnership. We grew that company from 200 homes a year to 400 homes a year. And towards the tail end of that, the director of construction left and went to go work for corporate. And at the time, I was looking for that experience to go corporate. You know, I've had 5 years of residential construction working for a partnership. It was an amazing time. We went on really cool trips, and I learned so much. But now it was time for me to really see what this corporate thing was like. You know, higher pay, but just to experience. I did a year of that, and we grew that company from 400 homes to 1,000 homes that year. And I was working underneath the director of construction, helping him wherever I could. And then after a year of that, 14-hour days, not a real sense of purpose, I would say, just more of a filling a role where I was outperforming, everybody. However, there's really no, what's the word? Gratitude, I guess, but there was nobody really, there was no reason for it. Yes, I would win awards or whatever, but that wasn't fulfilling, just to be kind of a number, helping this big machine keep moving. And, so that's kind of a quick synopsis of how my, career in construction was to get here. So
that's pretty in depth. Hearing you explain it, my question is, and thank you for explaining it. That was very thorough. It's almost, I'm more like the visionary kind of person. Like I envision and I kind of reenact it in my head, and especially because there's two things. The question that Jonathan asked, especially of understanding going into college, because I hate to admit that you are 100% correct. During my era, when we were going into college, just pick something you might like, but I'm going to mess up the word, the
specificity,
yeah, that word of finding something that's dealing with construction and stuff like that. It was either business, science, or psychology, and we just had to pick something we liked. From your experience, and even at that age, what was going through your mind of all right, well, I see, the F, what is it, the 350? I don't know nothing about trucks.
F-350.
F-350. Yeah. You see the smoking hot wife, you see the industry, but I know that wasn't your main reason to say, let me stick with this. What was it inside of you that to say, let me see where I can pursue it or how I can pursue it? I mean, were you thinking that, or were you really just thinking, wow, I like what that person has?
No, I think that just appealed to me off the, initial, first time meeting him, kind of thing. That was the first thing I saw. So that was appealing. But in construction, I've always heard of all these stories of Charlie Jones and how he would, outwork everybody, and he'd be out there. And it really, based on my, I guess, life at that point in time, it gave me someone to look up to. And so when I hear all these stories about him, in the construction industry, I initially actually wanted to become a plumber, but the plumbing industry or that role didn't pay well, and I just couldn't. I knew what I could bring to the table, and I was like, I want to learn this. However, I'm not trying to pursue it as a career, and I'm also not trying to make that low wage. So to really answer your question, what was appealing to me was, I would say more so I just fell into it. Other than having that door open and pursuing that opportunity, like I said, I was going for a degree in marketing and finance, wanting to go, I really liked math and I really liked numbers, and that was what I was into. And then I got into the construction industry, and it wasn't until I was there till I really liked it. At first it was just like, oh, that would be cool to do and learn about, and then it became, I enjoy this way more than pushing a pencil and sitting behind a computer doing, just doing finance work. So that's kind of how I...
Yeah, you definitely don't fit the mold of a plumber. If you showed up at my house telling me you about to do some work, You ain't doing nothing at my house. No, did it?
Well, it's fascinating to me that, what I see in your story is you had a desire to want to learn something. And yeah, you had a desire to go to college and learn marketing and finance, but while you were doing that, or even before you were doing that, you were eager to learn from somebody else who had mastered their trade, whatever that trade was. And it didn't stop there. It even really started before that. You learned these containers, and you were welding, and you learned a skill that others probably could learn too, but you mastered a skill, and then you learned at the feet of a guy who taught you plumbing, and then you moved into the business side of it or the finance side of that company and had a college degree to help you with that understanding. And you kind of elevated each time your progression. Maybe elevation's not, maybe you diversified your knowledge and your skill base to where you ultimately settled into where you've had all these glimpses of different things you could do, and then you found a frequency in which you wanted to camp at and stay at, and then you've been able to be successful in that. It's just neat to see a young guy who had any option, choose anything, and he just really what he did is he said, I want to work so I can make more for my family, provide to my family what's needed or whatever, and you worked and you grinded to get there. And I see that, working with you now is I see a guy who's eager to want to learn. He doesn't want to miss the details. He wants to understand how it works and how it operates. And I see that day to day, and it's neat to see a young guy want to know more and want to be better.
Yeah. How old are you?
28.
Oh, dang, you are pretty young.
Well, and that diversity in experience as a superintendent is so extremely valuable too, because sometimes the best superintendents have the wildest, weirdest knowledge from past lives and all of that. But the way I guess I kind of view it is it's just construction IQ. Like, not everything even really has to be super applicable to what you're doing right now, but one, someday that random knowledge you have is going to come around and benefit you. But two, it's the ability to problem solve on the fly and find solutions, right? Because the last thing you want in the field is somebody who a job shuts down because there's one problem and they don't know how to work around it, right? So it's always cool seeing some of the best superintendents, even project managers and construction managers, maybe more specifically, that I've talked to, seeing the vast experience that they have, that they bring to the table, and especially once you have a team of those guys, there's just almost no problem that can't be solved, right, with the right eyes on it. So you were going to say something.
Yeah, because kind of what you were talking about, and you mentioned your grandpa and being a pilot. I think we've all had maybe expectations growing up when we were kids, what we wanted to be or what we expected to be or what our parents or family expected us. Was there a certain expectation of what you were supposed to be or what maybe people around you expected you to be?
Ooh, that's a hard one. I would think based on my upbringing, I feel like my parents were not... I don't know how to word this. There's like a saying out there that goes, and y'all probably heard this. It's something about how hard times make strong men, weak times, or what is it? What's the other one?
Yeah, we cited a few shows ago. Michael
hard
had
times create strong men create easy times create weak men, and weak men bring about hard times.
Correct. So
there you go.
I don't know if I can 100%
Bingo.
describe that as the generation above me as far as my mom and my dad, but I would say that as far as setting a strong example, they did a very poor job of it. So what I had to do is I had to go out at a young age. First, I had to have self-awareness, which I knew that things weren't right.
Good.
And then from that curiosity or that weird, I don't know, that urge to be like, this is not a right scenario, this is not how stuff's supposed to happen, and then seeing people who were doing it right and then pursuing, being like, that's all I know as far as what is right, and I'm going to go pursue that instead of what I've grown up to be involved with, and it not be guiding me in the right direction. So.
Do you have siblings, or are you the only?
So I have one half sister. and she's 13 years younger than me. So she just turned 16 yesterday.
Oh, wow.
Yeah.
Happy belated birthday to her.
Yeah.
So you were only child for obviously quite a bit of time. So
Yeah.
even then, because typically when you mentioned that you had to kind of find your own self-awareness, that's usually when families have multiple kids and maybe somebody kind of gets left behind, maybe somebody doesn't learn. But as a being the only kid for a while, that must have been kind of tough for you to try to make those adjustments because you didn't have an older brother or older sibling to look up to or to adjust. Did you look to friends, family? Like, what made you feel that you were already identifying that you needed to have self-awareness when things weren't right?
I would just think, I think that would go dive into the experiences that I had at a young age and realizing something wasn't right, to the Chaparral family for taking me in like on the weekends, and then after that is really like when Justin Freeman got involved, and that's middle school. We played sports together.
Wow.
Yeah, we played sports together in middle school. We had actually gone to school together since elementary.
What?
And we became friends in middle school, and then in 7th grade, no, actually 8th grade. 7th grade we played sports together, but 8th grade we became pretty close friends, and he invited me to church. And so from then on is really, other than the I guess the culture-driven direction, more so from the Chaparral family, and then the spiritual direction from Justin, that's when, I knew something wasn't right. And then I started finding people who were doing it right, and then I started being around them. Like you said, you are the average of the 5 people you hang around most, whether that's your, who that is.
Yeah.
You're the average of them.
It could be family, it could be friends, it could be,
Yeah. So that, I think that's what then started catapulting me into like, okay, I know this isn't right. I'm going to go try to find something. I found it. Now I'm going to pursue it.
You know what's so cool to me about that? Like, even so, another young dad, right? I got almost 2-year-old, and just thinking about that moving to the future. You read in scripture that children are like arrows in the quiver of an archer, right? And that you want to point them in the right direction so that eventually they can land. And I'm just thinking, Justin made an impact in your life, and you met in middle school, right? So what's it going to be like when I have a teenager or, eventually an adult, how I want to be preparing them to make that kind of impact on their friends. I may not be in the position when I'm 30 to reach that 15-year-old kid, but maybe my child will be, right? And how
or vice versa, don't you think? I mean, you would hope that your son comes across somebody who can be that impactful, I mean,
of course.
I mean, how do you even determine that? I mean,
well, and part of just the way, where my mind is going is how do we prepare our families to be that kind of impact, or that kind of influence, because as fathers, husbands, our impact is not just in our immediate circle of influence. It's the legacy that we leave and what we're pushing forward to the generation ahead of us, or for the one coming after us. And so how do you view that? You've said that you came from, let's say, hard times or whatever, and you're trying to create something better for your family. What do you think? I know you've got a young child right now, but what do you think some of those strategies will be for you in teaching them how to prioritize their life and what kind of influences they're going to be around and how to be an impact on the people around them?
Honestly, I can only really answer that question based on my experiences. And, to go back on what you said, Justin's a great individual. However, Justin's Justin because of his parents, right? There is some sort of influence from other kids growing up in school. But if I sit there and say Justin's a great person, really, if you trace it back to how he became the person he is, you got to look at C and Christy. And then, which is his parents, and then then who shaped them, right? And it may not have been their parents, but it may have been someone they looked up to. So I definitely think, I agree, it's extremely important to show up for your kids or your family every single day, no matter what day you have, to provide the proper direction, because the small things you do every single day will lead to that, that child that you're raising making an impact on other people. And that doesn't happen overnight. It happens every single day, small piece by small piece. And And so to answer your question, I just think that me personally, it's really making sure that I'm accountable for my wife and my child and their actions, and then making sure that I'm leading them in the proper direction of going to church, right, and teaching the values of, God, and making sure that we're surrounded by other like-minded Christians, and not letting us be influenced too much by culture, so.
Yeah, that's a big thing. Just the influences that are going out now. I mean, you decided to choose your own, basically choose your own route, and you stuck with it. Now you have the opportunity to guide. That's good.
Well, I think about Paul in the New Testament was an unmarried man going around and preaching the gospel, and one of the things he said is he's like, look, I wish all of you could be like me and just remain single and just be hardworking Christian individuals and not be tied down to a family, but that's not the reality. You have families. And I think implied in that is that a husband's number one ministry is his family. Mm-hmm. Before going out and preaching to the world, before going and trying to save the world, his first responsibility after God is his family. And the more I just kind of thought on that, I went, man, that is, I think I'm sort of understanding what Paul is saying, because he could go and preach 24/7 because he wasn't tied down to anything. But our impact is not just limited to what we can do. It is multiplied by how many family members that we are leading and we are impacting on a daily basis. And I think probably the most profound thing you said was that it's about showing up. Because just the simple act of prioritizing the family and showing up so that our kids don't have to have the story of coming from a family that was inactive in their life or was not an influence in their life in some way, giving that opportunity to them that we may or may not have had ourselves is going to impact just that many more lives if we prioritize family as our first ministry.
Mm-hmm. And I agree. I also think, you mentioned about Justin and looking at his parents and the job that they did to Justin and instill certain principles, and that was his influence helped you and your walk in life and all that. And you think about these circles of influence that you have on other people or other people have on you and shape who you are too. As much as you're influencing somebody else, they're influencing you as well to some form or fashion. And I don't know. We have this saying that it all annoys us, but that's wild. I don't know who started that. I think I got it from you, but I've said it in front of him. Now he says it all the time, and it's like one of those things. It's very subliminal at times.
It's wild.
Certain behaviors or whatever, and I just think it goes back to what I want for my children is I want a better future for my children than I had while I grew up. And you and I have talked about that same thing. You want your son to have a better lifestyle, life, support, all the things than your parents. And your parents are probably not evil people. They're probably great people, but you still want better for your child, right? And so you're trying to get them built up in a way that they can be a better Tristan. You want your son to be better than you are at this age. And that's what I want for my son. That's what I want for my daughters, to be better individuals than their parents. And if we keep raising a culture of kids that in that direction, I think we'll see blessings in the future. But there's a lot of battles ahead. There's a lot of things that scare me about my children. We got technology that is just wild. It's wild, and we have to stay ahead of that because you're 28, 29 years old, however old you said you were, and technology is going to be a lot different when your son is 16. What are we doing and how are we staying in front of those things? Because I don't want my son to have the same weaknesses I have, but he's going to. Mm-hmm. And I don't want my son to fall in the same traps that I fell into, but he probably will. Mm-hmm. But what am I going to do to help him? Am I going to tear him down? Or am I going to build him up and help him realize that sin is a real thing, temptation is a real thing, but he has a teammate, and that's his father. And I want him to know that somebody's in his corner to help back him up. And so we can walk and navigate this life together. And I know that that's probably for all of us and our sons, but influence is a big responsibility when we talk about raising our kids and really helping our kids out.
Mm-hmm.
So
If y'all start saying long story short, then I know y'all got it from me.
he does say that a lot.
I'll say a long story, and then I'll be like to end cap. All right, long story short. It's like a short story long.
Facts.
So those are some of the kind of spiritual implications of influence. One of the things that was come to mind as we were talking is the career influences that happen. So one of the Dave Ramsey personalities, Ken something, he wrote a book. Ken Coleman wrote a book called The Proximity Principle. Mm-hmm. And the basic premise of the book is that legally large companies have to take a certain amount of resumes, but at the end of the day, 90-something% of the jobs are going to be people they know. That's who they're hiring. Or a connection of a connection. They're going to ask their employees, do you know anybody fresh out of college that would be a good fit? And those are the people that are probably going to get those jobs. And so basically his point in the book was not that that's evil. We just tend to trust people that people we trust, right? That's just the way it works. But as someone pursuing a career, one of your main objectives should be to be in close proximity to the types of people who have those connections. And in your case, I guess you were somewhat fortunate to have built those relationships over time somewhat naturally or whatever. But would you say someone, let's take construction just to be specific, someone trying to get into construction who doesn't have those connections close to them, how would you say somebody could go about trying to get into closer proximity to those sorts of connections and find their way into an industry like that?
Ooh, so I think this goes against what you said, but a mentor. I mean, really, I mean, I understand the whole question of like if you don't have that, but I think mentors are so huge in the industry because mentors will know somebody. Like, I don't know, it's just so hard to get away from that. You know, everybody knows somebody, and that's kind of your direction. So I guess my answer to that would be, other than, you know, the easy answer of going to college and getting involved in programs that put you around more people, go meet people. Because really what you said with that proximity principle, it is who you know. In some sense, or because someone's going to know somebody, even if you don't have a relationship with that somebody, you know, to where they can present an opportunity or that door can be open for you. But just to be cold and just to try to break into an industry without any connections, I don't know.
Tough.
Because I feel like you got to open a door somehow, whether that's a bunch of research on your own and then going out and connecting with other people who know what they're talking about. I mean, I don't know how to get away from that.
I think some of it is even things like a gym community. I mean, I know if I wanted to break into another industry, I could go to Alex and go, hey, do you have someone who works out here who is in that industry, right? Just being plugged into a network like that, or church. You know, I hate to use church as just a like.
I don't think you're supposed to use the word hate and church in the same sentence. Am I wrong? Because I've been learning from you guys.
Hate sin.
Oh, Michael. I hate when he's right.
But, you know, I hate to just refer to the church as some sort of networking group. It's not. But when you're plugged into communities like that, it does create connections for you over time. And so you could go and say, hey, do we have somebody in this industry who maybe they don't have a connection for me, but maybe they can put me on the right track. You know?
But I kind of look at it a little bit different in the fact that I think that we're all pretty humble guys. I think it still comes back to
the most humble.
Yeah, we're all pretty humble. But I still think that it comes down to giving ourselves flowers and saying that we're just not lazy. Because you can have all the connections in the world, but if you're lazy, what difference will those connections make? You can be in a room full of entrepreneurs, successful entrepreneurs, and if you're just sitting in the chair quiet, not getting up and asking questions, then what good is it going to be? So when you're mentioning about
don't take away the need for a grind.
Yeah, you still have to put into it because you know, you mentioned mentors, but I just want to, you know, give you flowers and say you had something in you already that made it determined that you needed to seek out, you needed to pursue. You have people that's sitting at home complaining they don't like the way they're living, they're not making enough money. But what are they doing? I mean, they're expecting a mentor to ring their doorbell and be like, hey, I'm going to take you out and then I'm going to make you into somebody. It doesn't happen like that. It doesn't happen.
Well, and what's crazy is there are people who try. I mean, there are mentors who reach out. So just as an example, the last company I worked for was a construction company, commercial construction company, and I got hired off of Indeed. It was one of those rare situations, but it got my foot in the door.
You got hired off of what?
Off of Indeed.
What does that mean?
Indeed, the hiring website. It's been a long time since this man's been in the job market.
Last time I got hired by a construction company, I was over here at Home Depot.
As a retail?
So anyway, but I go in for an interview and
Reader.
You're doing some road construction.
Here's where I got lucky. It was in the middle of COVID, and I was the only person who actually showed up in person for an interview. Everybody else was asking if they could do a phone interview or this and that, and it was construction guys. They're like, no, I'm not doing that. Yeah. I was the first person to show up, and I got offered the job on the spot. And so that was my in as an assistant superintendent at the time. Worked my way to superintendent, then got moved to the office and those sorts of things. But the owner of that company really took me and mentored me into the work that I eventually got to do with them. And so I've heard people say, I can't find a job. I've applied for 100 jobs, this and that and the other. But maybe 100 is not enough. Maybe it takes 1,000 or 10,000 applications to find the right one or whatever. But eventually you have got to do the grind that it takes to get there. And other people filled those roles before me, and they weren't given the same opportunities. And that's not to say I'm just the best employee ever or whatever. But it's like you were saying, my boss was a guy who wanted to mentor people and help them be successful. And several people sat in that same chair that I did and never got those same opportunities because they half did their work, right? So proximity principle, yes. Connections, yes. But all the connections in the world are not going to make up for lack of work ethic.
So with your proximity or with your people that influenced you, did they influence your hobbies and fishing and hunting and archery and things like that?
Absolutely. I think that was instilled in me with the Chaparral family for sure. Yeah. At a young age, obviously they taught me how to work, but the purpose of working wasn't, oh, I really enjoy working. Maybe Charlie was like that, that guy. But the reason he worked so hard is because he had the purpose. Like, the reason he was working on his ranch so hard is because it was his ranch. He had a vision for it, right? So as a young kid, you're sitting there and you're like, how does this guy work so hard and work till 2 a.m? And it's his, and it's his vision of what he wants to. Right. So I think with that, I don't know. I got to get back to what were you originally? What was the original question? I totally lost my
hobbies.
The hobbies, picking up on them.
Okay. So with the work, but we also got to have fun. After we got done working, we'd go hunting, right? And being a young kid and going to shoot a gun and going to shoot an animal and harvest it, and not even really getting to the weird aspect of harvesting, but more so of going to kill. Like, going to kill a animal was for me, I know it sounds kind of weird, but it was pretty awesome. You're going out and hunting an animal, and then you're getting to kill it. And there's so many kids out there that don't get that opportunity. And so for me, that really drove me. And then from 12 to 14, I hunted with a rifle, and then I got into bow hunting. And luckily, I was able to learn from a guy who was the VidCam dude for Ted Nugent. His name is Bobby Bohannon, and to this day, I think he runs Ted Nugent's ranch, if I'm not mistaken. But he got me, into bow hunting, and then I started pursuing that a lot. And I really was never into fishing at a young age. And Charlie's favorite thing was to fish, and I didn't understand it. I got so much more enjoyment out of shooting a rifle or shooting a bow and hunting and sitting out in the elements and maybe never seeing anything, to having incredible mornings where a cold front blew in, and it's what you always hear stories about, of the animals are moving like no other. And that morning I experienced that. I shot 2 coyotes, and I've never had a coyote. I never shot a coyote, and I've never had them in bow range. And that morning I did both. So for that, that was my driver initially, is being exposed to it, and then getting the ability to do it. And then after that, I would fish a little bit, and I got invited one time by a buddy of my friend Justin. It was his friend growing up. His name was Jordan Schuler, and he invited me saltwater fishing. And once I started saltwater fishing, it was a game changer because me personally, I wasn't really into bass fishing or anything. Like, bass fishing's cool. There's a lot of money behind it. There's a lot of history behind it if you really get involved into it. But it wasn't something that I really enjoyed. I like crappie fishing. And to bass fishermen, crappie fishing is nothing, you know. But then I got into saltwater fishing, and that opened up a whole new world. It is very addictive.
Okay, so is Tristan the person you got stuck on the boat with?
Yes.
Okay.
Yeah. I was testing out my boat, and it wasn't running right, and we ran out of fuel, and we had to kayak the boat back.
So we parked the boat, and we'd go on these back lakes down in the Bay Area or whatever, and so we'd get some reds that are trapped back there, and so we were kayak fishing and all that. So on the way back, we were trying to get back, and he ran out of fuel, so we threw the kayaks back in the water. We tied ropes on each side, and we were going.
Did you sit in on his interview? Was he one of the people who interviewed you? Michael?
Yeah.
Okay, so how do you feel that you were actually hired because you can hunt and fish?
Does that
feel? Because you went to A&M, right? You went to.
So I went to A&M. I did something called blend team. So I did half and half. So I went to blend, but I also took courses at A&M. And after my third semester, I dropped out, got my associate's degree, and then transferred to Lone Star, knocked out a few more credits, and then transferred to U of H and got my degree there.
Oh, okay. There goes the connection. I was like, there's no way that he's hiring you as an A&M guy, but it has to straight do with your hunting and fishing. But now I see the connection.
He took me out there to get rid of me so he could take my job.
Oh, yeah. 100%. Oh, yeah.
No
hey,
shot.
Michael, let me tie your shoes. Why is there a concrete block attached to it? You've been working out. We're about to leg press it. Yeah. You would have called me. I would have helped you for sure.
Okay, so tell me about bow hunting, because this has gotten a lot more popular recently.
Yeah, that's pretty cool.
A friend of mine named Schaefer. I call him a friend of mine, then I say his name wrong. But his name's Schaefer. He wrote a song. He's a rapper. He wrote a song about Cam Hanes. And this song just like blew up. It was on news media and whatever, and he took over the charts and whatever. And it's a song about bow hunting.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
It's just so obscure. But I guess it's gotten a lot more popular.
It's had to have. First off, Cameron Hanes is a legend in itself. You know, like as far as his work ethic, and then hunting, and then somehow a connection to Joe Rogan was made, and then once he got on that podcast, it really blew it up.
That's when the song took off too, because they talked about it on the podcast. I think is what happened.
Oh, that's cool.
Yeah,
that's cool.
Now, when you're talking about the popularity, if I've actually gone. Well, I can't say I've actually gone bow hunting because I couldn't do it. It's a lot harder than it actually looks. Strenuous, no matter how strong you are,
hard.
No matter how strong you think you are or the power, it's the technique. And so unfortunately, I didn't do enough to actually go with the rest of the camp.
It's completely different muscles than you work in a gym. Like you may go do some bent over rows or whatever, working your back out, but when you're pulling a bow back, you're using different muscles.
Yeah, the different tensions. I think what I got stuck was they were trying to loosen the tension range for me, but I just couldn't be able to get the drawbacks. It would go blip ding.
Your arms were so short.
No, well, they would adjust it. They were trying to tell me, but then I would see somebody. They would see it so effortlessly, and I'm looking at them like I know for a fact I'm stronger than this person. But it wasn't about that.
It has nothing to do with it's technique. But it's also is strength in a sense of like, you need to start at probably 50 pounds and then work slowly tension it as as 50 pounds gets light to you, then you tension it some more. But you've got to start because that person that you're looking at has been practicing for much longer than you've picked it up for.
Because I do remember, I think that's where they told me that I was actually better off starting with higher tension because I had the strength, but I had no no aim. It literally would just. So I could. I guess it was the control of it, but man, it was bothering me so much because it was so cool. I mean, I think that's the way hunting should be, quite honestly. Because I always joke with them. I'm like, "Oh, y'all going hunting with guns? Why don't you do it like back in the days with bow and arrows and
How do
knives?
you hunt, Alex?
How do I hunt?
Yeah, how do you hunt?
Man, I braved that crowd at HEB at 1 p.m. and I'm driving through the meat department and pushing old ladies out the way to grab the last turkey.
You mean Home Depot?
No, that was before. That was before.
Oh my God.
But no, I would love to, but I'm not killing no animal.
I would do it once. That'd be enough.
Bow hunting is
Oh yeah, I think I've seen this one.
is this the gobbler guillotine?
Yeah.
Oh yeah, you showed me this.
Yes. Hello. How's everybody doing? I'm just here. Welcome for Thanksgiving. Goblet. I am the king of this field. Wait, I hear something. What? Oh. Hey, Fred, are you okay? The other one comes running up. Yeah. See, in my head, I thought that was what I was going to do when I got invited out because I had some people here that were hunters. In my head, I was like, oh, I got that. This would be easy. Because
I wouldn't want to go hunting with you because you would just talk
all day
the time.
long. Trying to
Michael,
teach
you talk all day long.
Not when I'm hunting.
No, I was just
He's got
hunting.
your back tonight.
Dude, that's what I'm telling you. I said, I just can't believe that we just grew into a
This
five-man
is
podcast.
coming from long story short man over here.
Yeah, no Diddy. My boy's back. We just became a 5-man podcast. Yeah. So we're going on a hunting trip.
4.5.
I'll
Sorry.
I guarantee you we'll kill more animals and fish. Catch more fish than you. But anyhow.
Well, do you drink energy drinks? Or you just straight coffee it?
Man, I have been a huge coffee guy. You know, coffee's my thing. But if I'm like consistent in the gym, I'm doing pre-workout. You know, but yeah. So really, no, I'm not a big energy drink guy.
Well,
I hear so
Whoa.
many mixed signals about it, like like it's bad for your health or whatever. So.
Well, some of them are. I do say they've gotten better over the years. I'm not sure if it's the regulation or companies just want to be more competitive because everybody has an energy drink out now. But I mean, they're all right.
Oh, I'm sorry.
there's
Is this the point where I'm
far.
supposed to promote this?
Well, no.
Hey, I'm looking at it like I don't know this.
Everybody blames the caffeine in them, but really the caffeine is not the bad part of some energy drinks. It's all the sugar and everything else that some of them are infused with. But like you said, they're getting better. You know, a lot of them are much lower calorie and aren't going to make you fat. And the caffeine, now back in the day, they'd throw a lot of caffeine in some of these pre-workouts. But that's toned down too.
Oh,
So
yeah.
this is I'm
Wait.
not necessarily promoting them because I haven't decided.
Before
if I like
we
it or not yet,
test
but-
this, I do got a question for you because I know Michael couldn't. So growing up, did you have any military influence around you or like family members going into the military to where it wasn't an option? You were not even from here.
No.
We're not letting no Germans into our military.
Half of our military is foreigners.
But not German. Not German.
So as far as the influence, I had the opposite. My dad was anti-war,
Really?
and his concept was you're fighting another man's war and all this. The reason, long story short, his dad was a pilot for the Marines. He actually trained to drop nukes. He flew an A4 Skyhawk, and so with that being said, I don't know if some of that resentment came from that. I don't know. My dad's a real conspiracy theorist and really against a lot. He's just against a lot of the stuff that you wouldn't be against.
Yeah.
He has a different way of looking at life. And so to answer your question, no, I had the exact opposite. I wish I had it. I wish I was able to go into the military because I would have loved to do that. But I think I was skewed from my dad's point of view in it. Whereas now I'm looking back, I'm like, wow, I really wish after high school I would have pursued that. So
Okay.
You didn't miss out on anything.
Yeah.
So this company reached out to me and they said, hey, they're called nootropics, like nootropics, but troops, right? So
Okay.
nootropics. And they said, wondering if you wanted to try an energy drink. I was like, well, I run off caffeine, so absolutely. So they sent me this stuff. They sent me some like energy pills and some different stuff I can try, whatever. I haven't really decided what I think about this yet, so I want to get y'all's take on the flavors.
Are they all the same flavor?
yeah, I'm about to say this tastes like a lot of energy drinks that I've tasted.
Yeah, I agree.
I agree.
It's good.
It has a little bit of an aftertaste.
Now,
Sitting in my cheeks.
Alex is very picky about his energy drinks. I will say this.
Yes. I don't just drink anything. I'm a diva. I'm an energy drink diva.
I don't mind it.
It's like Red Bull, but not as much of a punch.
There you go. That's a good
Yeah.
good
It's
way
like
of putting it. That
it's
is
like
definitely.
watered down Red Bull is what it tastes like.
So
That's
my
good.
No, that's
general
the
take,
extra
and
chlamydia
I
that
think
you
it's
just
better.
got
I
from
don't think this is what these guys were going for when they sent me these drinks, but I'm just going to be honest. It just tastes like a generic energy drink.
Correct.
That's basically
Well, they're
where I'm
cool.
at.
I agree,
I mean,
but
cool
it
label.
tastes good.
It's good.
It's good.
Yeah, I would drink it, but
Yeah. I think it's
the
tastes better than
caffeine
Red Bull.
content, I think
We're,
it's like
we're all going to have diarrhea in an hour.
yeah, for sure. I think the caffeine, what was it?
116?
Yeah,
116 is not too bad.
So it's a little lower. Their whole thing is the steady energy thing. They say no spike, no crash because they want you to cruise on it or whatever. I don't know. So I'm giving it a try.
Yeah, it does taste like Red Bull. I think the cans,
But-
I mean, the marketing has to be, to win right now in the energy drink world, you have to have a heck of a marketing team to push the product, sell the product. I mean, even like that Prime with, was it Jake Paul or whatever his name, or Logan Paul or whatever. Oh my, I don't know if y'all have tasted, but those drinks are just horrible. I
Well,
mean, they
so-
taste bad, but they have the best marketing.
Tim Kennedy is behind these guys.
Oh,
I know
okay.
he's sponsored by them, and so I know they're doing good stuff. And it says 15% of their profits go to military charities. You know, so I'm sure they're doing good stuff.
So when they say pro soldier charity, is that a particular, they're just saying,
This is not an endorsement. I am
just asking.
I have not fully looked into them, but
because
But I
I mean,
tried
as
it, it
opposed
wasn't
to
bad.
what, non
what
soldier
does
charities?
it say a flavor on here?
I know you said that, and then I started looking for the flavor. I couldn't see it. I don't
Maybe
know if
this is new. Maybe this is their one flavor so far. I'm not sure.
It's good. I like it.
It's not
Doesn't
bad.
have a bad taste. Now I have no idea what's in the ingredients.
Yeah, it's not bad.
Can't even pronounce it. For children, pregnant, nursing women, persons sensitive to caffeine, 5 grams.
Chug it.
So James told me something earlier. He only has 19 days left on his pacemaker.
What? And then he's drinking that. Should that be a good idea? Oh man,
No, that'll
live it
help.
up, man.
That'll help the pacemaker.
So that's like
Yeah,
2
live
more
it up.
shows, and then he's done.
Live it up.
All right. It was nice knowing you, James.
What, is he
Yeah.
for real on a pacemaker?
Yeah.
He has a baboon heart.
I don't know about that, but he loves magnets.
Man. So what is that? What is that
If you
supposed?
throw him towards a big one, he'll actually stick to it. It's crazy.
So what's going to happen with your heart?
Well, it works on its own 32% of the time, so I think I'm good.
Man, I'll totally give you mouth to mouth, man. I won't let you go, man.
So what happens?
What's
You
that
gotta
gonna
get it
do
swapped
for
out?
his heart?
Probably,
I think that's the point.
hey, probably nothing, but
That was very ditty of you.
probably nothing,
my
but it'll be an experience he won't forget.
What are you?
So correction, it's 19 months, not 19 days.
Oh, what?
Oh.
You really
Way
thought I said
better.
19 days?
I'm pretty sure you
Oh
did.
man, I gotta do
It's
with you for 19 months.
months.
Oh.
And then when it does run out of juice, they'll just give me a new one.
So you got to go into surgery and they replace it?
Yes, sir.
So
Is
how
it,
long
is
does
it
it last?
inside you?
So I got this one when I was 12, and so I'll be 22 whenever they replace it, probably. So
Every 10 years.
Yeah.
Gotcha.
The next one will probably last a little longer.
Is there 19 months left? Is there like a safety factor built in that 19 months? Meaning you're going to go in around 6 months left and get it replaced, or
Well,
does the 19
Wait
months
till 19
include a
months.
safety factor where it's
Yeah.
like it's really like 36 months, but
It's
they're telling you 19?
estimation. It's estimated.
It could stop
19
tomorrow.
Why are we
Yeah.
laughing?
Yeah.
Does it like?
So
I
if
hope
you
it's not like my fire
the
alarm. I
crazy
change the
thing
battery
is-
and it dies like a
the
week
crazy
later.
thing is the leads that are in there are the same ones I had since I was 3. The same wires going through the same arteries.
I bet you they're all
in the
like
heart.
rusty
Since I was
and.
3. They,
Dude,
so they're squirting electricity into my muscles, and I get muscle spasms because of it. That's what the doctors told me.
So did they tell you?
You
not
play
to drink?
basketball just like that too, just by the way. Like you just been spasming. He does play basketball like that though, right?
Eh.
Yeah. Exactly.
So does it give you some sort of warning, like when the battery's low?
Me?
Yeah. Is it like tied to a device or
If
anything?
you find me on the ground somewhere, that's your sign. No,
Gosh.
pretty much. there's a little like remote control that I'm supposed to do 4 times a year. Put it on my pacemaker.
Supposed
and
to
then
do.
It sends a
I
signal.
know he says supposed to.
You haven't done it in 5
I
years.
did that about
eh?
3.5 years ago. That was the last time.
So my great grandfather Ray, do you remember his defibrillator, messing up in the middle of him preaching? Okay, so my papa, we were in this community center before our church building was finished being built, and my papa is preaching, and he's in front of the pulpit saying something passionate, and his defibrillator glitches or whatever, and the dude just flies back into the pulpit, just slams, grabs his chest, and so we're all like, oh, he's croaking, like this is it. And he pauses and he goes, my boom, happens again. And they were like, how about you sit down, so we sing a song, they get him some water, and
that helps everything.
He's like I'm fine, and he gets up and he finishes the sermon, goes to the doctor later. But that was terrifying.
Over here at a Baptist church, it'll just been like he's singing, and I've seen it happen. They're like, oh, damn. So it happens. Anyways.
Have you been to church in a while?
Oh, I did not. Yeah, I only went once last month. I made a New Year's resolution that they're supposed to be holding me accountable, which they do a great job because they invite me to church all the time. But I'm supposed to go to church twice a month, but I don't go with my wife and the kids because they go to an all Spanish mass, and I have no idea what's going on. So I just look to the side when the person gets out to the.
He doesn't speak Spanish. He doesn't speak.
No,
English.
I speak Spanish. I don't speak church Spanish. It's totally different. Church Spanish is way different. I can communicate. If you leave me in the middle of Mexico, I'm going to survive. Don't leave me in the middle of a Mexican church. I will not know what's going on. Totally different feeling. Totally different thing. But anyhow, I did want to ask this one question with you is that being that you're 28, you're in this industry now, you're with a good company, you have kind of cool coworkers. What's your plan in the next 5 years? What do you want to do aside from take out Michael? Which I'll send you my number later, and then we'll make that happen. But no, really, because somebody at your age, I commend you on that. I think that's a really good thing, especially your story. Just for being so young, but being able to have a good story to tell him where you're at. But what's the next?
Are you asking him to admit his exit plan in front of Michael?
Hey, that's what is on the spot, or make Michael exit. No, what do you want to do? What's your goal in the next 5 years?
Honestly, I don't have a plan to really take over the world in 5 years or whatever. I don't have some crazy, outlandish. I'm not saying that's wrong, just because it's good to set high goals and, but really it's just to gain experience. I think with construction, something I learned was that you got to put the time in. Like, I was a young kid who just wanted more, and I had conversations with my previous owners, or the company I previously worked at, the owners of that company. They just told me the same thing. Like, we wouldn't know what we know now unless we put the time in. And I'm just like, how can I learn what you learned? And all, I'm asking all these questions. And so to answer your question, really it's just to get involved as much as I can and learn as much as I can. There's a lot for me to learn. Going from residential to commercial, there's just so much more involved. So as far as work is concerned, I'm just going to do a deep dive and put my best foot forward every single day and learn as much as I can. But as far as like scaling in the company or anything like that, I really don't have a goal set there other than to learn as much as I can, eventually be promoted to project manager. But that's about it. Another 5 year, other than that, more so personal, I want to get my family brought up to the north side of Houston.
Let's go.
Where do you stay now?
Deer Park, Texas.
Oh, wow.
So I grew up in Spring.
Oh, okay.
Went to Spring High.
Oh, yeah. Did you live around that area?
Yeah, I lived right. You know where the Topgolf is?
Yes.
Yeah. So I was in that.
What kind of question is that? You went to Spring High. Did you grow up in that, or did
no?
You
I'm
live in that
saying, but Spring High School. He doesn't know. He's not from Spring, but so I used to live down Cypress Wood and Aldine Westfield. So I lived 2 minutes from Spring High School.
Yep. I grew up in Germany.
So,
did you live there?
You grew up two minutes from
guys,
Spring High School?
We're in the middle of an interview. Can y'all respect our time? Can you respect our time?
2 minutes from Spring High School. Did you live in Spring?
Yes.
Oh, okay.
What? Yeah. See, that's why we can't make anything happen.
He was 23 when he was in high school, so it doesn't matter.
My mom still corrects me on that. Anyway, made me forget. Do you see? Y'all messed up our interview. What was I saying? So you're in that area, so you're looking to try to come to this side or kind of navigate to this side.
Yeah. My wife and I were living in Tomball, and that's where we wanted to live. And we found out we were pregnant 3 months after we got married, and so when we found that out, it was full on. Okay.
Yikes.
Kick back and punt, and we need to get to people who can help us. And her family lives in Deer Park, and we were really blessed because during the, after COVID, house prices went through the roof, cost of materials skyrocketed, and even with myself being in the industry and getting the, the discounts and deals that I would get, it wasn't financially smart for me to buy a home, just the way the cost escalation was happening. So her parents lived back door to their parents. And they moved in with their parents to help take care of one of their parents. Yeah. So their house was vacant and they were going to sell it. Well, it was, an older home built in the 60s. It wasn't well kept, and we got the opportunity to purchase that home, and I can't say too much about it, but long story short, we had the funds to be able to renovate it. So we got into that house, and our lease was up in 3 months. In a 3-month time frame, I gutted the house completely. Obviously, I hired contractors. I didn't do the work myself. Gutted it down to its studs and replaced walls with beams and really revamped it into a 2022 household.
Oh, wow.
And our babysitters are back door. So that helped out a bunch, and they're a huge help. So that was huge. But really, Megan, which is my wife, she grew up in that house, and she wants to get out and live in a house that's not affiliated with her childhood home.
Right.
And I want that as well. And I love the north side of Houston, like Tomball, Spring, even New Caney, like just these areas up here, just because it's, I guess, newer, like the developments are a lot nicer. But I just like it up here. It's just
That's why I left from Spring. That's why I left from the Spring area. It's because it seems like the Spring is such a busy area, but it's such an old busy area. It's the same it's been the last 25 years.
Yeah, I'm not interested
that
in going
whole
back to Spring,
area, it's just the same from all that. But you mentioned that you wanted to possibly move up to project manager. I may know somebody over there. Don't worry, man. So, it's all about connections and who you know. You just met me today, and I might put in a good word for you. I don't know.
Well, thank you.
I don't know why I turned to mafia man. I don't know. I might just put in a good word for you.
Wait, you're already ending this?
Hey, this is like
we're
that's like
doing
your
a Joe
mom.
Rogan 3 hour, 3.5 hour.
But we got Soldier Fuel and C4.
Which is my stomach is a little upset right now. I'm not used to drinking stuff that I'm not supposed to. All I drink is water, C4, and beer. And this one right here is not making my stomach feel that good. It's good, like the flavor is kind of addicting to keep on sipping on it, but
This is a long outro.
I feel like we just started. This is crazy.
It's been an hour.
I guess when you compare it to like Joe Rogan's podcast and stuff, or
Yeah,
like
they just
Jocko
go and
Willings,
go and go.
yeah.
Stop comparing our podcast to Joe Rogan's.
We are way better.
I'm just saying
we're way
length of
better.
time. Like, have you watched Jocko's podcast?
A little bit.
So it's just black and white, and he's
Yeah.
just interviewing
Yeah.
guys from like old military. Like he calls them the frogmen and stuff, and it's just like 3.5 hours of just like if you're watching it, it's just black and white, and they're just sitting at a table. It's dark in the room. There's just enough light. It's kind of like an interrogation table.
Yeah.
And at least the ones that I saw, and there's just enough light for whoever they're interviewing, and there's a host, which is Jocko, and then his co-host, which is I forgot his name, Echo Charles.
Echo,
yeah. And that on in comparison to Joe Rogan, like they just go so long, you know. So just having this conversation, I feel like we just reached the tip of the iceberg. So
We did, and we know that today's a special day for you, so we're gonna go ahead and sing happy birthday for you. So happy
No,
birthday
it's not my
to
birthday.
you. Happy birthday to you. No?
What happened? Is it his birthday?
I honestly don't care who celebrates a birthday, who has a birthday within the next few days. If it is not my mom or my wife or my family, I don't care.
We thought we were your family, but I guess not.
No, not when it's your birthday. I don't care. No, his mom was on the show last week, and they lied to me and told me it was her birthday, and I'm sitting there singing and dancing like a little Mexican fool. And it wasn't even a birthday.
Fool.
Fool. It's FOO.
Yeah.
That's the way you're supposed to spell it. Fool. Yeah.
Oh.
But for 2 seconds, you almost got me. I was like this. Nope. Not falling for it again.
Well, thank you for joining us.
Yes,
It's the
no,
APECS
thank you, man.
Podcast.